Record. Gururbrahma, Gururvishnu, Gurudevo Maheshwaraha, Guru Sakshat Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. We are in Jnaneshwari, chapter 18, verse number 15. Yeah, we have to start from 15. We completed 14. And we saw in the 14th verse the 5 causes of karma. We saw 5 causes of action. And adhishthanam tatha karta karanam cha pruthak vidham vividhascha pruthak cheshta daivam cha chaivatra panchamam. And there it said the first was adhishthan. Adhishthan was the body. Then came the agent. Agent is karta. Karta is the doer. He is the agent. And then came the various instruments, that is the karanam. Karanam, the various instruments are the 5 organs of action and the 5 organs of perception. And then came the mind, and their manifold distinct functions. And the 5th, their presiding deities. And the 5th one was the Daiva. Daiva is the, what is Daiva? Daiva is the productive potential behind all the instruments of knowledge and action. Understand? Which we told you, if you can't remember, behind the right eye is the sun, the deity called sun, or the god called sun. His position, his location is not in the outside sun. That is the Adi Bhautik. So we have 3 types of Srishti, creation. One is the gross creation, one is the Adi Daivik Srishti, which is the subtle creation, and then Adhyatmik, which is the absolute. So there is one, yes, there is a physical sun, but is the physical sun more powerful than the eye which illuminates it? So eye is more powerful because it is illuminating the physical sun. Then what is that power behind that eye? That is the Deva, that is the productive potential. Same way, in every part of our body, there is a potential because of which it functions, which pushes it, which energizes it, vitalizes it to act in a particular way. Having told these, we went into detail there, and now we come to the 15th verse. And in the 15th verse, he says, Sharira Vang Manobhiryat, Sharira Vang Manobhiryat, Karma Prarabhate Naraha, Karma Prarabhate Naraha, Nyayam Va Viparitam Va, Nyayam Va Viparitam Va, Panchaite Tasya Hetavaha, Panchaite Tasya Hetavaha. Together, Sharira Vang Manobhiryat, Karma Prarabhate Naraha, Nyayam Va Viparitam Va, Panchaite Tasya Hetavaha. Whenever action, whatever action a man performs with his body, speech and mind, whether right or wrong, These are its instrumental causes. So these 5 are the causes because of which an individual, a man, a human being, performs the action. Remember 2 things. What are that? What is called action? Going back to basics. What is action? What is karma? Karma is
physical action with some intention.
Activity with ownership is called action. That activity is called action. So what are the 2 ingredients there? That there is movement. Activity means movement. And someone has got identified with that activity and said, I am the owner of this activity or the doer of this activity. That becomes, and that has then been expanded into the 5 causes that has been told there before in the previous verse. Activity, if an act is done without doership, if an act is done without doership, even if you destroy the whole world, there is no sin committed. Because there is no doership. Towards this one story comes. You have heard of Emperor Ashoka, who spread Buddhism all the way up to Cambodia and Laos. His sons did. And he was doing it. He was fighting wars. He was making the whole country into one. But there was one kingdom which was not ready to listen to him. And that was the Kalinga Pradesh. Kaling means the Orissa, eastern India, along the coast, above Tamil Nadu. Above Andhra Pradesh. And eventually, when he defeated, because he had attacked it 17 times and he has not been able to win it. And eventually he has the king under his foot and he is about to kill him. He stops. He stops. Till that time, Ashoka, the Emperor Ashok, he is not a Buddhist. Till then, he is not a Buddhist. And he stops. And he says, the king, the Kalinga Pradesh king, he said, why are you not killing me? He says, everything I did before, I did without doership because it was my duty. But to defeat you was a personal agenda. And therefore, I'm not going to kill you. And he leaves him. See? And such stories are, many stories are there like that. And therefore, one must, in our life, if we can, perform actions without ownership, we must do that. But let's see how Jnaneshwar Maharaj is explaining this. Tari avasata ali madhavi tehe tu hoya nava pallavi pallava pushpa punja davi pushpa falate ka varshiye anize meghu meghe vrushti prasangu vrushtistava bhogu sasya sukhacha. He says, now the sudden advent of spring is the cause of the fresh foliage of trees, which results in flowers and fruits. The monsoon brings clouds, the clouds bring rain, and the rain produces an abundant crop of grain. He is giving an example, which he will compare it to something. Natari prachi aruna teviye arune suryodayo hoye surye sagala pahe divo jaisa taise mana hetu pandava hoya karma sankalpa bhava to sankalpo lavi diva vachecha ga magavachecha to divata davi krutya jatanchi avata तेवहा कर्ता रिगे कमठा कर्तृत्वाच्या तेत शरीरादिक दळवाडे शरीरादिका हेतुची घडे लोह काम लोखंडे निर्वाळी जे जैसे काता थुवाचा ताणा तांथू घालिता वैरणा तो तंतुची विचक्षणा होय पटू. He says, the east brings the dawn, the sun brings the light, and when the sun shines, there is the daytime. So, O Arjuna, mind is the instrumental cause of decision of action. Huh? So, mind is the instrumental cause. Where is the action happening? Where is the action happening? Three places. Manasa, Vacha, Kaya. Mind grossified is speech, and mind expressed again at the gross level is action. And therefore here is saying mind is the instrumental cause of all activity, instrument cause of decision of action. This decision finds expression in speech, and then in the light of that speech, the way of action becomes clear and the agent undertakes action. So first the thought, meaning desire or decision, then that expresses as words. It may be the words in the mind or words in the mouth. Not necessarily. Most of the time we are speaking to ourselves. I did not speak to anybody. Oh my God, I am setting up here, I have to go. I spoke to myself, and that prompted a rushed activity to pack up everything and drive at breakneck speed to this place. So there was nobody to talk to, but yet speech was going on, no? So first is the intention, then is the words, and then that prompt, and eventually the action, the gross action undertakes that action. Thus, the body and other organs become the instrument cause of such body and organs through such cause. What is that? Thus, the body and other organs become the instrumental cause of such body and organs through action, just as an article of iron is hammered out by an iron hammer, or cloth is fashioned by weaving yarn in warp and woof, or a diamond is shaped by cutting it with a diamond. So the actions of mind, speech, and body become the instrumental cause of mind, speech, and body. So the actions of mind, speech, and body become the instrumental cause of mind, speech, and body means action begets action. What does that mean? Action begets action. That when action is performed with, because naturally action means with doership. Where there is doership, there is automatically like and dislike. There is, you're performing it for some result. Then that precipitates impressions, and those impressions again express as action. And this goes on and on and on and on and on. This is this cycle we have to come out of. So first point is recognize that this is the cycle. We are doing the same thing in Kenopanishad also, in yesterday's class, that actions happen only at the instrumental level. What is the instrument? Five, we just saw what are the instrument. Body is the instrument, that is the base. All experiences, actions are happening in the body. Where is the agent? Where is the doer? In the intellect. Where is the, what do you call, the instruments? The five organs of perception, the five organs of action. So perception are seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting. Action are speech, hands, legs, anus, and genitals. See these 10 and their gods, their potential behind these 10. Now all these put together is, where is all this put together? Or these five, where are they? They are in Prakriti. They are in matter. They are not in the pure consciousness. They are in matter. Because we are in the karma yoga part of it. Here it has been accepted that consciousness and matter are two separate entities. Matter can never be consciousness, and consciousness can never be matter. Oil can never become water, water can never mix with oil. So consciousness, the quality of consciousness is direct 180-degree opposite to that of Prakriti. Prakriti is finite, Prakriti is changing, Prakriti is what do you call? A phenomenal, Prakriti is empirical, whereas consciousness, it is of the nature of knowledge, it is permanent, it is never coming and going, it is unborn. So totally opposite qualities. How can they ever get married? So now you have to recognize this. Now, where are all the causes of action and where is the action? Action is in the body, and all the causes of action are present in the body. So instrument is also in the body, the cause is also in the body, and the activity also is in the body alone. Between these, in the Prakriti alone. I shouldn't say body, Prakriti. And Prakriti is that which is phenomenal. So now when they are saying it is in the mind, mind alone is expressing as speech, speech alone is expressing as physical action, then what are you doing? What are you doing? Then do nothing, don't move. It's happening. I'll say, it's happening. Are you moving it? No, it is happening by itself. Same thing. This is what we have to recognize in this life. This is called wisdom. Otherwise, we are living at a default level of ownership and getting tossed this way and that way. And then we say, why this disease is coming, why it is so cold, why the heater is not on, or fan is not on, etc., etc. Why the food is like this, continuously complaining only and becoming miserable. Why? Desire-oriented lifestyle, result-oriented lifestyle. But there is no desirer. There is no desirer. Then why are waves coming on the water? Do they have a purpose to achieve? Nothing. It's a phenomena. Why is rainbow coming? It's a phenomena. It has got nothing to achieve. So accept that this Prakriti is a phenomena, nothing to achieve. But you cannot live like that. You want to believe that there is a purpose, otherwise society has programmed you enough to believe that if there is no purpose, you are in depression. So then what is the purpose? And it is healthy also to have a purpose, because we are thinking people. If you can come to a point where you are okay without thinking, then it's fantastic. But till you don't come to that point, then think. What do you think? That all this activity which is taking place is happening at the Prakritic level, at the empirical level. I am not the doer. So catch. And activity breeds activity. So whether activity is at mental level, speech level, or physical level, it breeds, it's self-propelling. It's self-propelling. And what is the propulsion factor? What is the propulsion factor? The subconscious impressions. The subconscious impressions, this is what scriptures say. That is the purpose. What is the, why does the rainbow come? It comes under certain conditions. Why is a wave formed? It is formed under certain conditions. If there is no breeze, there is no wave on the waters. So what is that breeze? That breeze is the subconscious impressions, which express as, when they come to the surface, they are called as desires. Then they get concretized in words. They get formulated. And those words then prompt us to act. Okay. Continuing 361st verse. Where are we? तैसे मनवाचा देहाचे कर्म मनादी हेतुची रचे रत्नी घडे रत्नाचे दळवाडे जेवी हेथ शरीरादिके कारणे तेची हेतु केवी हे कोणे अपेक्षिजे ते तरी तेणे अवधारिजो ऐका सूर्याची या प्रकाशा हेतु कारण सूर्यूची जैसा का उसाचे कांडे उसा वाढी हेतू नाना वाग्देवता वानावी तैवाचाची लागे कामवावी का वेदा वेदेची बोलावी प्रतिष्ठा जेवी तैसे कर्मा शरीरादिके कारण हे कीर ठाऊके परिहेची हेतु न चुके हे ही एथ. He says, or a diamond is shaped by cutting it with a diamond, so the action of mind, speech, and body become the instrumental cause of mind, speech, and body. So each one is a cause for itself. Each one is the cause for each other. Now, just like parents produce a children, then children produce more children. Or another way you can put, a father asked a child, "Hey child, behave yourself. I gave birth to you." He says, "Dad, full stop. Why? I also gave you birth. Who called you father before I was born?" So parents are the cause of children, children are the cause of parents. Can parents call themselves parents without children? No. So same way, exactly the same way. Chicken or egg? That's the story. And that is the story here. Each one, mind, speech, and action, they are the cause of more activity. Now, if the body, etc., are the material causes of action, so instrumental cause, subtle cause is the mind. Material cause is the body. At the body level, what happens? What are the 5 organs of action? They are speech, hands, legs, anus, and genitals. So activity is happening at the body level, isn't it? So speech comes at the gross level. Yes, there is a subtle speech, which is your thoughts in the mind. Now, if the body, etc., are the material causes of action, a doubt may arise how they can also become the instrumental causes of the body, etc. I have already explained, chicken or egg, etc., father, parents or children. Just as the sun is the cause, both material and instrumental, of light, or the joints of sugarcane promote the growth of the sugarcane, or the faculty of the speech has to be employed to sing the praise of the goddess of speech, or the Vedas have to express the majesty of the Vedas, so everyone knows that the body, speech, and mind become the cause of action. But there is no doubt that the same action become the instrumental cause of the body, speech, and mind. In this way, if the 5 causes of body, etc., are supported by the external causes, then they both together produce action. So in other words, what it is, here example, nice examples he has taken. Just as sun is the cause, both material and instrumental. So what is the material of light? The source of instrumental cause is the sun. Material cause, the light which you are receiving, is it coming from other source? No, it is coming from the sun alone. Then second example of sugarcane. The joints, the nodes of the sugarcane is the point from where more, if you cut that and plant it, again the sugarcane grows. So sugarcane itself is the instrumental cause, and it itself is the material cause. Now, apply it to yourself. Instrumental cause is the mind, and the material cause is also the mind. Or material cause is the body. But here you will think, oh, mind and body are separate. No, body is only an aspect of the mind. Mind is the container in which the speech, the five senses or the 10 senses are included. Mind crystallized is called body under certain conditions. So what is crystallizing the mind into body? That you, under certain conditions, someone has accepted, this is the phenomena which is going on. In dream also you have a body. There are so many bodies in the dream, but you choose one body and say, I am that one, and you experience the whole dream. Same way in this, here also, you have accepted this is the body. So mind is the instrumental cause, and at the same time the material cause. If you can understand, then the whole equation of your experience of life will change. Then nothing is outside, everything is within. So here we are not even looking at outside, we are looking only at this body, and we are saying this body itself is the material cause, this body itself is the instrumental cause. It is self-propelling. You have got, you as the conscious principle have got nothing to do with it whatsoever. The earlier we catch this, the better it is or healthier it is for a person. If not, again, more examples he has taken, just as example that we use the faculty of speech to praise the goddess of speech. Saraswati namastubhyam varade kamarupini vidyarambam karishyami siddhir bhavatu me sada. This is the praise for the goddess speech. This is the potential behind the speech faculty. She is the goddess, she is the wife of the creator. Then how can you remember her? Can you see her? No. Then do you know there is some power behind the eye? Yes. So there must be power behind the speech also? Yes. What is that power? This goddess. If she is the power of speech, how will you call her out? Will you see and tell her? No, you have to speak only. So that goddess is being invoked by the gross speech, which is her expression alone. Understand? So she is the instrumental cause and the speech is the material cause. That material cause alone is invoking the instrumental cause. Samajh rahe ho? You're understanding what is being said? With this speech is the grossified mind. And with this speech, I'm saying, I got a mind. Without the speech, you cannot say, I got a mind. Then, or the Vedas have to express the majesty of the Vedas. So Vedas are the scriptures. And what do you read in the scriptures? The greatness of the truth. And what is that truth? That truth is that one without a second. And what did that one without a second do? He manifested as the Vedas to the saints and sages. And what are those? How did it reveal to the saints and sages? As words. Then they were compiled together and they became the scriptures. And these Vedas, they say that one must study Vedas in the scriptures in their life in order to go beyond this phenomenal existence. Because the answer to that is only given in the Vedas. And in the Vedas also only in the Upanishads. Everywhere else they give you a solution only to come back to human birth. But in Upanishads, you can transcend everything. But how will you follow that instruction given in the Vedas? When do you follow anything? Why did you come here today? Is it because you are bored at home? Is it that you seek company? You don't get food here. You have to drive all the way from there. You have to miss your movie and TV programs to sit on the computer to listen. So what is the motivation factor? What is inspiring you to come to listen to the satsang? What is inspiring? You're not getting anything. There is no laddu, there is no dinner, there is nobody is going to give you petrol money also. Then why did you come? Because in your mind, there is a feeling of respect, reverence, greatness for this environment, for the words that are going to be heard for next 1.5 hours. These words of Jnaneshwar Maharaj, or these words are of the Upanishads or Bhagavatam or whatever. And we have respect and reverence towards those. And we know that if we expose ourselves to these words of the scriptures, there is a possibility that something clicks and we break the cycle, which is feeding itself ad infinity. Birth, death, birth, death, birth, death. It goes on. There's no end to it until you don't break it. And that possibility of breaking is only given to the human being. Who says so? The Vedas say so. But when will you follow Vedas? When you have respect and reverence. Who told you to have respect and reverence for Vedas? Vedas only tell you that have respect and reverence for us. They give you the principle. They don't say respect and revere us, but they say that the principle is you will follow that for which you have a feeling of greatness and respect and reverence. Okay? So that's the point that is made here, that or the Vedas have to express the majesty of the Vedas. And so everyone knows that the body, speech, and mind become the cause of action. Then what does it say? Action become the cause of action, but there is no doubt that the same actions become the instrumental cause of the body, speech, and action. How come those actions become the instrumental cause? The gross actions become the instrumental cause? Because why do we do action? Remember, action means what? There must be an owner. There must be a doer of the action. Why does someone do an action? Because he wants result. He doesn't do just for the heck of it. Majority of the people. So if there is for a result, an action is being performed, then that result will precipitate as memory, whether good result or bad result, it will precipitate as a memory, which will stay hidden in the subconscious mind until the right environment comes and it again erupts as the desire in the mind, then expresses as action, and then speech, and then action. 365, continuing in the 366th verse. आणि देहादिकी कारणी देहादि हेतु मिळणी होय जया उभारणी कर्म जाता ते शास्त्रार्थे मानिलेया मार्गा अनुसरे धनंजया तरी न्याय तो न्याया हेतु होय जैसा पर्जन्योदकाचा लोटू विपाये धरी साळीचा पाटू तो जिरे परी अचाटू उपयोगू आथी कारोशे निघाले अवचटे पडिले द्वारकेची वाटे ते शिणे परी सुनाटे न वेचिती पदे तैसे हेतु कारण मेळे उठी कर्म जे आंधळे ते शास्त्राचे लाहे डोळे तै न्याय म्हणिपे. He says, in this way, the 5 causes of body, etc., are supported by the external causes. Then they both together produce actions. So instrumental cause and physical action, that is the gross cause. Both of them together produce actions. If actions are performed according to scriptural injunctions, they become righteous actions. What was told in the verse? Nyayam va viparitam va. Actions can be righteous or unrighteous, right or wrong. It does not matter to the equipment, to the mind, speech, and what you call, and to the action. These three, or to the five causes. It does not matter, good or bad, because it's only matter. It's going on. So here it says, if actions are performed according to scriptural injunctions, they become righteous actions and promote righteous conduct. Then what is unrighteous action? That which does not follow the precepts of the scriptures. What are scriptures telling you? Right now, what are scriptures telling you? Catch this point, that action is performed in the Prakriti, by the Prakriti, and maintained in the Prakriti. The conscious principle has got nothing to do with it. So have we understood that? Has it gone deep into us? This is the lesson that is given here. Now live like that. Yeah.
So Prakriti is to do with becoming an active, and then Purusha or consciousness is just being.
Just as
Being.
the sun is just being. He doesn't say, now I'm going to decide, I decide to give light. No. Light goes by itself. Its nature is light. He doesn't create day and night on the earth. He doesn't make anyone get up in the night, in the daytime, or sleep in the night time. People have decided that when the day comes, we have to wake up. When the night comes, we have to go to sleep. But there are some owls who work at night, so they wake up in the night and they sleep during the day. So many people. There are people in North Pole and South Pole, or Norway, Finland, etc. For them, 6 months day and 6 months night. Where is the question of day and night for them on a daily basis? It's not, but they have learned to adjust with it. So is the sun the cause of all activity on the earth? No, he's not causing the activity. He's not prompting anyone. Some are active, some are inactive. But so this is the point there. So that he is standing apart. Same way, this Purusha principle, the Purusha and Prakriti, the Purusha, he is not doing anything. He is only watching what is going on. Technically. See? And I think it was in this class or in last class, I told that in Mundaka Upanishad, this Purusha, instead of one Purusha, they are told two Purusha. So one Purusha is watching, the other Purusha is pecking every fruit. Huh? Oh, there are two birds there, yes. Next time I'll take it, the two birds. As long as they are looking at each other, realization. If one bird looks at the leaves, at the fruits, at the flowers, at the beauty of the earth, at the sky, and wants to fly away, the other one will keep watching what this other fellow is doing. So one is called the Jiva and one is called the Atma. Atma, or the unchanging principle. So you are the waker right now. You are the father right now. You are the brother or husband, wife, whatever role you are the listener right now, seer right now. But you also know that the waking dream and deep sleep come and go every day. So the one who knows, he is the constant one. And the one who's changing the roles is the other bird. So these two are present. One is the principal and the other is the virtual or the illusory, phenomenal. The rain fallen in the paddy field gets absorbed there and helps the growth of paddy. If a person leaves his home in anger and takes the road to Dwarka, he may feel fatigued by walking, but the steps he has taken do not become fruitless. The rain fallen in the paddy fields gets absorbed there and helps the growth of paddy. Whether you have planted any seeds or not planted any seeds, if the rain has fallen, the soil is fertile for a crop to come about, isn't it? And you get the fruits. Exactly the same way. If we have performed, here the example taken is, if we have started a journey to Dwarka, why did we start? Many people, they leave home out of frustration. They leave home because they don't want responsibility. They take to sannyas because of fashion. Easy living, easy life. People, world will take care of what world? Ashram will take care of me. It will give me the money. It will give me the house. It will give me and I will have, I will be just talking and people will be listening to me. And, I will, the sense of grandeur, that I am a great person. Apne muh mein mithu. That such people have majority people are like this only. That they feel when they take to this path, very few people are coming out of genuine reason. Prabhupada, who started ISKCON, came, he lived, he was a married fellow, he had children, he left his family, and in his last 12 years, he did such great work. Papa Ramdas from Kanjangarh, he was a lawyer, he was married, and doing all doing all his duties at home. One day he decided that the vairagya, the dispassion was at its peak, and early in the morning he got up and decided, now let me live at the mercy of Ram. Took 3 paisa from his 3 annas from, left everything else. And the moment he opened the door, the father came. He opened the door for him. Son, now that you have decided to go, how did father know? He said, now that you have decided to go, he initiated him to Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. He says, Bhagwan, I only decided, and you already initiated me in your name. 9 years Papa Ramdas lived without even ever begging for food. Without even begging for food. Because then my attention is on hunger. My attention is not on Ram. See? So he lived at his mercy. And if he was hungry, he said, you must be keeping me hungry because you want to purify me. That was his dialogue with the Lord within him. Because he has not come across the Lord in that physical sense. So how many people do you know who live like that? For genuine reason, they want to merge into the divine, who have left everything, or they are living in this world doing their duties like Lahiri Mahasaya. He did not leave his family. Lahiri Mahasaya is Paramhams Yogananda's guru's guru. Yukteswar Maharaj's guru. He was sitting, wife used to go to sleep, and after 1 hour rest, he used to get up, sit down in the corner of the room, and whole night he will be in meditation. He did not run away anywhere. He did not shirk from his responsibilities and duties. He used to work at the post office. He used to go to the post office every day to do his job of whatever his job was. See. So here Jnaneshwar Maharaj has taken the example that if a person leaves his home in anger, we also remember God only when we are miserable. We don't remember him when we are happy. When you are happy, Yahoo, I did it. But when you're happy, Darshana do Bhagavan. Then you go to the temple, you do archana, you pray, you pay money, you do abhishek, you tell him to chant 108 names. But you will not chant 108 names. You want the priest to do it for you. Why? Outsourced. Nothing is going to be achieved by doing this. You have to dig your own, plant your own seeds. You have to plant your own seeds. So this fellow, even though, okay, you have remembered God's name out of miserable because you are in disease, you have disease or you have problems in life, challenges in life, shortcomings in life, whatever the reason, you are frustrated, you are angry. But Lord's name, thinking about Lord, taking the Lord's name, doing the service to the Lord, it never goes waste. Just like water which has fallen on the land will never go waste because it will make the land fertile. Exactly the same way, if a person leaves his home in anger and takes the road to Dwarka, he may feel fatigued by walking. But the steps he has taken do not become fruitless. Similarly, whether you go on pilgrimages, that is a very, very gross way of doing your sadhana, or you are sitting in your home out of frustration, you are taking the name of the Lord. Many people have come to me and they say, Swamiji, naukri nahi lag rahi hai, this nahi ho raha hai, wo nahi ho raha hai, I have lost my job. And to so many, I have given this Sai Satcharitra. Sai Satcharitra is the Shirdi Sai Baba's Pothi or Gajanan Pothi. And I tell you, do the Parayan of this for 1 month. And if those who have done, see, now they've got their jobs. But now what has happened for them, it has become an excuse. Every year they have to chant it. It has become a habit in there. Whether it be out of fear, whether it be out of wanting more from God, whatever, but at least on their tongue, the name of the Lord has come. It cannot but be beneficial. So if you know this, take the name of the Lord. Hari Om, Hari Om. No, thank you. Hari Om. Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram, Jai Shri Ram. Today someone asked me, Swamiji, I am giving a lecture to the children or something, and I have to tell this story, and it's a story about Ram and Hanuman fighting with each other. So is it okay to give this story to the children? I said, you are the one, if you are having doubt, how will you tell the story? You should not have any doubt. Can you tell me how to how to bring out the point, or how should I present it? And they had 15 minutes. In 15 minutes, he told me the story, and I put it in my own words. Because important is not the war between the fight between Ram and Hanuman. The important thing is that the fight between Ram and Hanuman is only a leela, a sport. So start with that. So everyone is clear, it is not a fight, it's only a sport, because everything is Lord. So how can Lord fight Lord? Lord alone is in the heart of the Hanumanji also. And then there, the king's palace is there, and in the king's palace, everyone is there, rishis are there, Vishwamitra is there, and Naradji goes and tells Hanumanji, you pray, you touch the feet of all the rishis, but don't touch the feet of Vishwamitra. Hanumanji says, yes, I'll do it. And he goes and touches the feet of everyone, and he doesn't touch the feet of Vishwamitra. Vishwamitra becomes very angry. He says, Ram, in your court, this has happened. You have to kill Hanuman. You have to take revenge for this disrespect that has been given to me. Ramchandra says, yes, sir, because Paritranaya sadhunam. He will always listen to the Brahmin, the sages. So he says, okay. And Hanumanji is fighting with Ramchandraji. Before the fight begins, Hanumanji says, Naradji, now you have put me into trouble, man. How am I going to fight? He says, don't worry. You take the name of Ram. Nothing will happen to you. So they are fighting. Ramchandraji is shooting all the fire arrow and air arrow and water arrow and mountain arrow. Nothing is affecting Hanumanji. He even sends the Brahmastra. That also becomes important in front of Hanumanji. Then that person asked me, now, at that moment it came, what is that? That when we are talking about the greatness, that the result will always be there. That is what we are talking about. When Ram, Hanuman and all the monkeys, they were making the bridge to Lanka, all of them were writing Ram on the stone and the stones were floating. So Ramchandraji said that let me also try. So he took a stone and put it in the water, it sunk. Why did it happen? Because he abandoned the Ram himself, is abandoning the stone. So it's sinking. So every arrow was abandoned by Ram. It became separated from Ram and it went to Hanuman, in whom Ram is in his every pore. Therefore, it could not affect him. See? And then they became very, the person became very thrilled. Yeah, okay, now they have to put it in their own words and the principle has to come across. See? So, how long you've been listening to Bhagavad Gita? Not all your life. With such commitment. Something must have prompted it. Something, all the pujas that you are doing, the good thoughts that you have been having, you have made the decision that now I will, I'm ready. Now I will start. You have lived a correct life. You have lived a righteous life. You have lived a life of non-interference in other lives by thought, word, and deed. To some extent, I'm not saying everyone is perfect, but to some extent, that you are living a dharmic life. Then alone God's grace comes into our life. Valmiki who wrote Ramayana, he was a killer. He was a murderer. He was a stealer. He was a dacoit. But once he started taking the name of Ram, and that also he felt very guilty. So Narad Muni told him, take Mara. You know how to kill? Mara. In Hindi it is Mara. So he took Mara. It became Ram. That dacoit, that murderer, that stealer, that uncouth, unrighteous person became the great sage Valmiki who wrote Ramayana. So if there is hope for that, there is a future for that sinner, there is certainly a future in this lifetime for you and me. Understand this. We are not forsaken. We are not forsaken. We have attended satsang. We have taken the name of the Lord sometimes. We have a deep interest in spirituality, not only surface spirituality, but deeply within. We spend time with ourselves. We like our own company. We like to contemplate on the reality in whichever manner, gross, subtle, or transcendental. You will be taken care. Grace will flow to you. Exactly. That is the point that is being made here, that even if by anger a person has left home towards the Dwarka, whether he is tired, fatigued. So when we take the name of the Lord, we also become fatigued, we become tired. You try to sit straight and chant the name of the Lord for 1 hour continuously. Why 1.5 hour? Try. But you are sitting in a satsang, someone new comes here, they are not able to sit for 1.5 hours, they feel sleepy, or they are not able to sit straight. But you have been here for some time, so many years you have been listening, you have trained yourself. Every interaction must be an experiment in enhancing our capacity, enhancing our ability, invoking something more, that we are more than yesterday. Because this opportunity is available only right now. You can never by yourself sit. I'm not saying never, it is possible, but that you have to decide. But here, for 1.5 hours, when you are listening, naturally your mind is adjusted here. To make it an opportunity to sit still, to be available to the conscious principle within, to catch the principles that are being enumerated through Jnaneshwari or any other scripture. Take it Atmatvena. It cannot go waste. It will give you the result. And what is the result? Emancipation. What will be the absorption into the truth? Thus, whatever action is undertaken through the combination of both causes is simply blind action. But it becomes righteous if it is performed diligently according to the injunctions of the scriptures. So, blind action is what? Hunger comes by itself and you go towards the kitchen by yourself without any ifs, buts, automatically. Just while talking, I drank some water. Now I'm remembering I drank water, but I was not aware at that time, isn't it? You're clicking your fingers, you're not doing it with awareness. It's happening, it's habit. It is movement, no? So that is a default setting. So is this sanctioned by the scriptures? No. Is clicking of the fingers, is this activity lead to spirituality? No. See? Is the action of continuously again and again keeping the dadi straight, playing with the beard, is it sanctioned in the scriptures? No. These are default actions. These are blind actions. Without awareness, you are doing it. Now you find out. Are you eating without awareness? Are you sleeping without awareness? Are you waking up without awareness? Are you spending the whole day only in default? You get up in the morning, make the breakfast, children have to go to school or work, we have to make the food, then I'll do my yoga or I'll do my puja, then we'll do this, then we'll do that, then we'll do this. Now it is 3 o'clock, okay, let's cook dinner and cook the dinner. Or you go to work, do your job, do this project is there, that project is there, do this, do that, and come back again. What if every day is going the same way? How you have grown, how you have expanded, how have you come to the poise? No, you cannot run away from whatever is that blind action which is happening. Now you have trained yourself. Waking, dream, deep sleep is a training. Now it is happening by itself. Hunger and no hunger is happening by itself. Breathing is happening by itself. Now, as you have grown up, you have become married. Now, certain interactions between husband and wife, they are also a default. Now, children are there. You're taking care of the children, thinking about them, thinking about their future, education, work, money, etc. That is also default. You have set everything in motion. It is making you go in that direction anyway. You cannot click out of it. It requires huge will to come out of it. And what is that reason you want to come out of it? Is it you're afraid of the responsibility, or do you have genuine dispassion towards all this? But otherwise, you are stuck with the activity. No, I want to be spiritual, but my wife is like this, my children are like that, and my every day something, some bills are coming, and and complain and complain and complain and complain, and sometimes we don't even complain to others. We are working our mind up by our own self, by wrong thinking. This is called blind action. Just because thoughts are coming doesn't mean that you have to latch on to them. You understand? When seeds are sown or seeds fall by the effect of the wind, then a jungle is created. But when you take those seeds and meticulously plant, knowing what this seed is going to give fruit or flower of, at the entrance this seeds I will plant, and at the that bed I'll do this, on next to the wall I'll put this, then it is called a manicured garden. Then it is not a jungle. So is our mind a jungle? Survival of the fittest? Or is it a manicured garden? Are we living a default life? Default life is jungle life, instinctive life. Whatever you come, you karte raho. Wow, look, like a mad fellow, you are doing whatever is coming in front of you. But a cultivated life, for that you have to do research. Which plant, what flower, where it will look nice, how big it grows, how will it affect the foundations, etc., etc., etc. See? So what is our research? What type of thoughts do we want to plant in our mind? Thought is also an action, no? So what do we want to interact with? What do we want to plant in our mind? What actions, if I'm doing action, speech is going on right now. It is an action. What do I want to speak about? I want to backbite. I want to tell how great I am compared to others, or I want to tell how everyone else is bad and I am alone good, or I want to bicker about one person to another behind their back, or I want to take the mickey out of everyone and enjoy other people's misery. I'm using speech. Or do I use the speech? Remember, speech is the cause and mind is it feeds the mind. So who am I speaking to? Myself, my mind alone. He is the first student. So what are the thoughts that I am inculcating within the mind? Thoughts of the scriptures. That is the reason that we chant, that we do this, but do it with, what is the word? Do it with awareness. Don't do it blindly.
With bhava.
Huh?
With bhava.
No willpower. No willpower.
Bhava.
With bhava, yes. With bhava and with awareness. Awareness is alertness, vigilance. And vigilance about what? Vigilance not about just the word. Vigilance about okay, depends where your mind is. That awareness is about that all this is healthy for my mind. Or the awareness is, where are the words coming from? Awareness is that I have to program my mind only in this manner, and Lord, please make it once only. I don't want to repeat it again and again. This is awareness. I'm not against repeating it again and again. How many times I repeat the same principle so many times? But I never get tired. Because I know I'm watching. This mind keeps slipping every now and then. The day it's not sleep, speech will stop. Then I'll put my YouTube video and you listen to that. Okay. Is it already 9 o'clock? No.
Yeah. Okay.
Huh? So,
Thank you.
so we consciously get involved in action in the right manner. And the right manner is not determined that my right may not be your right. It is not that way. The right manner is determined by the scriptures. By the scriptures. Clear? Where are we? Where are we are? Oh, I'm in the wrong place. If a person leaves his home in anger and takes the road to Dwarka, he may feel fatigued by walking, but the steps he has taken do not become fruitless. Thus, whatever action is undertaken through the combination of both causes is simply blind action. So when you are thinking only about speech and only about the thoughts in the mind, then it is blind action. When it becomes conscious action, when your attention is on the conscious principle. If your attention is only on the thoughts in the mind, then it is not a conscious action. People say, I'm witnessing my thoughts. We are not talking about witnessing the thoughts. We are not talking about being aware of the thoughts. We are talking about conscious action means that you are aware of the conscious principle in whose presence activity is taking place. You are aware that the sky is colorless, yet the blueness comes and goes. You are aware that the water is water, but you're calling it by the name of wave or ocean. But you know it is only water. Do you know that about yourself? You are saying the thoughts, you are saying the mind, intellect, breath, body, activity, ego, doer, enjoyer. But do you know that you are the conscious principle who is other than this prakriti, yet supporting its expression, allowing it to express itself? Then that is awareness. Then that is conscious living. Conscious living is not about I'm conscious of the tree. What are you going to do with conscious of the tree? I'm conscious of the thoughts. Nothing is going to happen. Eventually one thought will take and pull you and suck you away. And then you say, oh, what happened? I don't know what happened. Then again, next satsang, it gets solved. But the steps he has taken do not become fruitless. That means whatever hard yaka he has done in his entire life, he has done the action with awareness, consciously. It will help him. Where? Next life, it will help him. Why some children from the childhood, they are having the bent of mind for meditation. Some people, even they are at reach the last breath, but the thought of spirituality doesn't even enter their mind. Why? Some in their middle age, they move in that direction. It's all because of the impressions. So whatever deeds they are done in the past, they are getting worked out, and then when their time comes, they fructify. See, so there will be a result for every, whether you own the action or you don't own the action, whether you do it with doership or you do it without doership. Every action must give a result. That is a foregone conclusion. Then why are we told not to think of the conclusion? Because you will become anxious for the result. The result is going to come anyway. You focus on whether the action is being done or activity is being done with awareness. Are you conscious of the activity? Are you doing it with love? Are you doing it without doership? Are you doing it with at-one-ment? Are you doing it without any bad intention? If there is doership, at least there is no bad intention. You're doing it righteously. Then whatever the result, it will be the result is going to be there anyway. So this is what is told. But it becomes simply blind. But it becomes righteous if it is performed diligently according to the injunctions of the scriptures. Now, some people say, I live intuitively. So what is intuitive living? Getting up intuitively at 11 o'clock in the afternoon and going to sleep at any time of the day. I'm intuitive. So I read also the scriptures intuitively. I open the page, and if it comes on 25 page, okay, I'll read that. What did you understand? Oh, it was something good. I don't understand it, but it was good. One person came to me many years ago, and day and night he will eat my head with the questions. Suddenly I was also new, fresh brahmachari. So I was also keen to, teach. Someone is asking questions. I have studied 2 years, now I'll answer. I used to engage in answering, explain him in much detail. Within 3 months, I realized I am repeating the same answers. And this fellow is asking the same questions. Then what did I say? The moment I caught this game, not for his sake, but for me also, because I'm just wasting energy. Giving same answers. That fellow is innovative in asking the same question many different ways, but I'm answering the same thing. Then I said, stop. From today onwards, I'm not going to answer any of your questions. Why? Because he will take Hatha Pradipika, then he'll take Bhagavad Gita, then he'll take Vigyan Bhairav, then he'll take Bhagavad, and anything he will open like this. And one line he can't understand, he'll write the question, come to me like a, and I was inspired, so question, answer. Say, that time that itch was there to teach or to contribute to society. But then what happened afterwards? Maybe that was required by him as well as me. But then after 3 months, what happened? No more questions, no more answers. Now I will appreciate only questions. I gave him one Bhagavad Gita and I said, you read 5 pages or 5 verses. If you ask me any question all night from those 5 verses, I am ready to spend the whole night with you answering those questions. But if you ask me anything before or anything after, I will not answer. And when you come to the verse number 5 to 10, you should have worked out the verse number 1 to 5 because you have already asked the questions. My life became easy. Now what is happening? A disciplined approach. When I feel like I will do pranayam, when I feel like I'll do yoga, when I have free time, I will do this. When I have free time, I will do that. Why everyone is sick? From morning till evening, they are only eating junk. Because everything is plentifully available, open the fridge, take out something and put it in your mouth. How your system is going to get the rest? Because no disciplined eating, so bad health. If you do pranayam at all different times of the day, it's not going to benefit you at all. So you have to get up every day at the same time. You must do your japa or pranayam or your yoga for a specified period every day. Initially, you need that discipline to get into the right frame. A disciplined approach that every day I will chant 2 or 3 malas, the 108 beads of my mantra. I will sit for meditation, half an hour, 15 minutes, whatever it takes. But I will sit every day at this time. You do it. If you sit on this place and chant for 1 month, you chant your mantra. Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Even not with love or anything, you keep chanting. Then you go away for 10 days and you come back and sit here again. Automatically your mantra will start. That is the power of discipline. But it becomes righteous if it is performed diligently according to the injunctions of the scriptures. So let all our actions not be a concoction of someone's imaginations, on someone's philosophy, of someone's doctrine. No, we don't want anyone. We want only the scriptural injunction. And if you have the right, as you said, bhava, that respect and reverence, Lord, please give me the right way. The books come into your life, the teachers come into your life, and you must have the discernment where you are getting the right one, which book is giving the right. Like sometimes we do the Vedic, do the chanting, and we are able to catch that some words are wrongly misspelled, isn't it? So we correct it, not because we know better, but because we know a little bit of Sanskrit, so we know that this is a printing mistake. See? So same way, when we are performing actions consciously, then our conscience will tell you whether to get involved in that action, whether that action is good or bad. You must pursue it or not pursue it. You should be involved in it or not be involved in it. Whether you should, don't you know? Many times when you are angry, you know from inside the voice is speaking, don't open your mouth, it will be better for you. And then, but the force is so much sometimes that you open the mouth and then again I missed the plot. Isn't it? It happens to all of us, isn't it? Same thing, it happens with food also. We are eating, enjoy the meal, this, that, and everything, and then inside voice says enough, but the tongue says more. And you slip.
Food company said more.
Huh?
Food company said more.
Food company said more. Okay. So we'll start in our next class from the 371st OV of the 15th verse. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Just sit quietly for a second.